To the residents and locals of Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, and all the world, I bring this communication to you today to intently shake the ground which supports our existence. There is a serious problem so deep, so all-pervasive and invasive that it goes unnoticed, ignored, or prayed away. If we want to reclaim our birthright as born-free creators without paper attached and to be common men and women who can manage our own affairs, we cannot ignore this massive constructive fraud and trespass which occurs to every child the minute they are born. The Setaki Trust and unlawful conversion, which happens as our parents sign away the title to our bodies and right as creator the moment we are born, affects every decision we make therein. The paper fiction world of the dead is forced upon us, and unless we spend the soul hours getting to the bottom of the all-pervasive, corrupt consciousness, we will never see it. It is designed that way on purpose. Jesus had to walk on water to fight this system. The water spoken of is maritime jurisdiction legal paper fiction. As Jesus did once before, we must acknowledge and carry on his fight. You can walk on water. It means to rapture yourself onto land, to fight this paper-thin, legal fiction world of maritime lawlessness of the sea and bring back justice to the land on which we stand. I'm here to concretely bring you this message that there are people dedicating their entire lives to bringing this light to free the consciousness of man and regain intrinsic knowledge of who we are and our unalienable right as divinity who can manage our own experience, to express our common sense, to not trespass on others, to inform others of wrong and harm, acquire and totally own full rights of the property we settle in and own, to pray, practice our faiths, express our true selves, and defend freedom. Christopher James, living in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, has assisted in the establishment of more than 7 common law courts established across Canada, with the first one being the Seklusky Court in Milton, Ontario, a first for Canada in 200 years. These others, Tammy and Tiffany, Pastor Art, Mac Parhar, Adam Skelly, and others have taken this momentum and established common law courts in their respective locations. The bar, which serves as the third component to the Setaki Trust, is attempting to hide these truths. These people who are loyal to this society are physically removing these common law court filings, say they have no standing, while dodging the requirement to refute the claims presented. This is a direct attack on your right to be heard in court while simultaneously continuing to hide the corruption. If the courtroom is the place to acquire justice, then it has been certifiably perverted and turned into a private playroom for the bar. Public courthouse, not private courthouse. The lies are catching up to the men and women who serve only to keep up this constructive fraud system and to reap the souls of us who are converted to a dead fiction on paper when we are born. This makes it fact that there is an entity sworn to ungodly intentions, physically attacking the property of your fellow man who is on the path of exposing their perpetual trespass. If they are so confident in their ways of a fair trial, they wouldn't attempt to kick it down the road or remove it from court. Their actions speak to the fear of the truth Christopher and others fight to bring to light. Go to awarriorcalls.com to see this truth yourself. Call the Burlington Court and ask why they are attacking the common law filings at that courthouse. Call your local courthouse and ask them for the methodology to establish a common law court. If that isn't an easy answer for them, ask yourself, why? They are the court. They should know how. If they don't know, it is now your responsibility to find out, so when you go into a courtroom, you can acquire a fair trial where you can be seen and heard, where a real jury of 12 peers can be heard. The 4 points of contention which tear down the rules of civil procedure are: do you claim I as property? Who can administrate property without right? Produce the obligation, that means contract with wet signature, relied upon to establish jurisdiction to manage my property. Show me a verified claim of wrong or harm or trespass against another man or woman. If these 4 points of contention have stirred your soul or given you a subtle shake, you know you are on the right track. If someone is intent on not answering these questions, you are really on the right track. Call your police and bring up these points. Call your courthouse and bring up these points. They are the pillars which establish we are not bound to these legalities, statutes, acts, codes, regulations, even the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. These only apply to someone working for the Service Corporation of Canada while acting on duty for it. They only apply to a person. We are man or woman. The rules of civil procedure do not apply to we the people. Civil, a trick word meaning Roman law, established by Justinian of all people. Research the Justinian deception for more closure on this. Now, in my experience in my local area of Peterborough, the police have, 3 weekends in a row, forced our protests to disperse, relocate, or hide our intention of our actions under the reasoning protest is non-essential. The force monopoly is extorting us to pretend, lie, and hide our noble intentions to share the message that the plandemic, scamdemic, fraudemic, and whatever you want to call it is the final nail in the coffin for all of humanity. The lower enlisted police cannot answer the most simple questions to their actions, while the top, most notably Inspector John Leons of Peterborough Police, denies that any trespass against what is right is being infringed. The legislation backs it, so he says, and he will send his officers to enforce it. This has proven to me there is a closed loop in which the lower enlisted will not reject these unlawful orders under duress of losing their security, investments, and sacrifices they have made to become a police officer and protect us. What sacrifices, you may ask? They manage and keep hidden the most brutal elements of our society. I am speaking to the scraping of corpses off the road from car crashes, being the messengers of maximum loss to the families who need to receive the news of loss of loved ones, being the frontline responders of apex misery, drug overdoses, suicides, and also being the warriors blocking predatory criminals who prey on the people here. Unfortunately, through the unlawful conversion, they are tricked into investing any noble intention to piracy and managing property which they have no right to manage with legal jurisdiction, which doesn't apply to a man or woman. Regardless of all this sacrifice, they too are a common man or woman who has been trespassed at birth. Their noble intentions of joining and training to become what they are today is being hijacked through the root of the corrupt consciousness and is now aimed at me, trying to inform my fellow people of wrongdoing. To which I say, wake up! These actions demonstrate what they are. Pirates engaging in piracy on the high seas, attempting to enforce legal, maritime, corporate jurisdiction made without consent or full disclosure. Peterborough, your police have failed you. For now, the men and women of the lower enlisted who are ordered to break up our protests have the opportunity at any time to stand up to their command and say, we will not execute these orders, again, as it goes against the core of what we do. This option always exists, no matter what Inspector John Leons tries to tell me. These actions are unlawful. Reject them. Retain your honor. Show your courage. Be a warrior for what you know is right deep down. Being a warrior means maintaining vigilance. Vigilance doesn't stop where your command says it does. If you think a criminal out to make a profit off of suffering is a battle, you are ignorant to what a man or woman who is fighting for truth and freedom is capable of. Refer to 1775 USA versus Great Britain if you need a refresher. As a soldier and true fighter for everything that is good in this world, I absolutely and resolutely cannot stand by any longer as I watch the corrupt consciousness of my fellow man swallow more souls, perpetuating this mass wrong and harm. I will not let the police, lower enlisted or command, casually brush me and my protesters aside and order us to protest inside. There is nothing casual in that action, and because of that fact, I will make it stick to them every time they try it. This fraudemic is a lie meant to steal the U.S. election. If you have such an inferiority complex to the United States that you want to turn this off upon the revealing of this fact, ask yourself how important the United States is on a global scale and what it could mean to a warring party to establish another tyrant in the top seat of the most powerful country of the world. Then ask if it makes sense to attack the entire world to gain control of the United States. Even if you don't believe that could be the case, the next step down is to take apart this pandemic with a few key events and points. Event 201 was live streamed in October, months before the pandemic started, telling the story of where we are today before it happened, available to you with a simple DuckDuckGo search. Using China's lockdown policies, governments colluding with the invisible enemy decided to implement totalitarian states, creating a shock event of an initial lockdown to attack the part of consciousness responsible for feelings of security. Without a retraction of that attack on consciousness through your own work, it will stay there until cleared. They stole and fraudulently used PCR technology as the base of their testing protocols, and even with the inventor, Kerry Mullis himself, declaring that you cannot use PCR to diagnose an illness. Powers continue to push use of this technology in this manner, spitting on his grave with every use. When medication popped up, proving it could stop the new illness, it was suppressed and lied about. Hydroxychloroquine and zinc had already been written in the 2006 Journal of Virology of Medicine as a potent inhibitor of SARS. They call this SARS-CoV-2. No? Ivermectin is being touted as another medication. Dr. Corey's viral video explaining this, titled, "I Can't Keep Doing This Anymore," is also censored, where presenting the findings of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance is deemed misinformation to these big tech gatekeepers. When our doctors are so desperate to get this message out, why aren't we listening? Budesonide in a nebulizer, an inhalant steroid which can be used on virtually anyone to repel these lung inflammations, quickly was also brought up by Dr. Richard Bartlett. They must suppress these treatments because cheap, effective treatments nullifies lockdowns and pharma companies' goals of injecting people with experimental technology against a perceptually untreatable illness. Treatments exist. Many governments and powers around the world are trying to hide this from you, but others are using them. The disconnect between the people of the world, while being more connected than ever to acquiring knowledge of these suppressed treatments, is unnecessary. The knowledge of these treatments was available years before this, and even in the opening months of the scamdemic, March, April, and May of 2020. Yet here we are. Whether it is you or someone you know or a sworn official designated to protect or serve you, we are all on the list to being poisoned with the experimental so-called vaccines, which could initiate what is known as pathogenic priming, creating low-grade autoimmune deregulation. Once the body is pathogenically primed, the next contact with the bacteria or pathogens injected will make the immune system attack every cell in the body, creating mass organ failure and sepsis. This delayed action post-injection only plays into the hands of the invisible enemy. At random, a wave of gene therapy injury and pathogenically primed people will begin experiencing new extreme illness and potentially death. The unknown surprise disease will be further leveraged to attack our rights and push the remainder deeper into slavery, imprisonment, and tunnel-visioned fear. What's worse is their priority of who will be injected with these experimental gene therapies first. Our wise and gentle elderly, the dedicated medical first responders, our doctors and nurses, then our police and military. Who will defend you after these people are destroyed by infection through injection? Nurses and doctors unwilling to acquire and provide the full disclosure of what they are injecting into people must cease these actions immediately until said disclosure is acquired and given. These gene therapies haven't been tested. That makes them experimental. Anyone injecting others or pushing medical experiments without full disclosure is liable for these actions. This is a war crime. War crime! Pleading ignorance will not be an excuse when your day in a real common law court comes. Our country, Canada, has political prisoner camps now. We have prisoner camps here. Did I say camp? I meant hotels, converted to extortion prisons. No due process, no day in court, abduction at our airports, then sent right to a political prisoner facility. Oh, we do have camps too, now that I think about it. Our children are being poked, prodded, and force masked, which reduces the oxygen required to support development. The social impacts are also massive, as face-to-face emotion and expression is suppressed. Schools are now prisons of rules regulated by extreme minutiae, and children and teenagers are unable to integrate self-explored choice into their psyche because of the orders forced upon them. Young people need freedom and room to explore the limits of life, to establish boundaries for later in life. The ability to experience these boundaries of exploration is being defecated on, narrowing the opportunity for children to grow up thinking for themselves. This will perpetuate the slave class of followers who do only what they're told, not what they've explored is true or right. My message to children being bullied into following these recommendations and lies are to stare the bully in the eye, whoever they may be, and demand answers to the 4 points of contention. Do you claim I as property? Who can administrate property without right? Produce the obligation with what signature I agreed to these rules. Bring me a verified claim from another man or woman of wrong, harm, or trespass against another man or woman. We got fooled, but you don't have to be one. Ronald Reagan said it very well. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender. In this case, it is the fortunate surrender of every emotional investment, every micro-action of masking up, and every piece of life invested in this lie. Every time you rejected the people giving you these truths. Every middle finger thrown up to the protesters bringing these crimes to light. Every falsified death certificate which you invested emotions into, telling others that family or friends died of COVID without confirmation of cause of death. Every business that shut down or compromised to protect people. Every second lost investing research into playing their game, designing a business with plexi, or purchasing PPE and sanitizer. It's all lost. It's gone. But the freedom is recognizing, integrating, then bursting back with all vigor to right that wrong by living your life without fear, by your rules, by what you know is the truth, living love. By doing the soul hours, researching the lies about suppressed treatments, the corrupt courts, and the war against all humanity and love, you can free yourself from the oppression. It's out there. It takes time to learn, but the freedom made available makes it the most efficient research you'll do in your life at this junction of time and space. The only difference between you and I is the vigilance and willingness to research the information used to attack humanity. If it is not empowering you, or at the very least not recognized as love, it is not in your best interest. Denying your right to breathe the universe fully is not love. Putting distance between others is not empowering or loving. The ability to recognize who is speaking from their heart and not from their desire to suppress and control is one of the most important skills these days to have available. This love must be developed and felt internally, not projected externally as controlling others. Remember, these rules were made up and then forced upon us without even one hint of say in the matter. These unelected officials and bureaucrats know exactly what they are doing, which is the problem. They do not accidentally trip over the idea of locking people into their homes and destroying the vibrancy of our lives. We have to confront them and hold them liable for their repulsive actions and constructive fraud. Every single death must be investigated for underlying causes contributing to death. Every single time suffering was caused because of these massive lies must be levied against the perpetrators to restore order and acquire closure. Much like how the people who wish the current state of affairs will just end, keyword just, it only ends when we take back control of our role and inherent duty as creators right down to the individual level. The bar for being a leader these days is so low that now the simple action of not imprisoning your face and oxygen supply is now amazing leadership. Hugging or handshaking a stranger is now a point of rebellion. Standing up for the right to maintain body chemistry balance is now a superpower. If it takes being a rebel for a while to regain control of your own body, so be it! There has never been a better time to step up to the plate and invest in the leader in each and every one of us. You cannot see the other side of the river and get someone else to carry you across. You must cross this bridge yourself. If you don't know where the bridge is, take a leap of faith and swim across. You must feel the integrated action of standing up for yourself. Every man and woman can be a leader these days with the smallest actions. This means creating the subtle details of our world through research, integration of knowledge, and action to protect oneself from the propaganda being slung at you. Reject these propagandized manifestations with every kalapa, Sanskrit word for smallest unit of physical matter, you have awareness of. Someone putting on a mask and telling you to distance yourself from others doesn't create a fact. The entire store wearing a mask doesn't create a fact. If you were ever on the fence about this situation and a part of you is leaning towards how much of a lie this is, but cannot seem to stop the momentous loss of freedom, the people of Canada fighting this tyranny have decided tomorrow, February 11th, is the day we open up. It happened in Vienna and Italy as well as being a growing movement in the UK, which is taking back control, one mind, one business at a time. Some countries aren't even on any restrictions right now. If you believe the people creating these dates of actions, protesting every day and weekend, spending sole hours finding solutions and deciding this date has your best interest in mind, take a leap of faith and open up. You are responsible for each and every detail in your life. The government cannot grant you the ability to run your business the way you want. They are not providers and creators. Governments around the world have certified that with this perception, they will only create negative outcomes, which imprisons and makes you invest in their way of life. I say no, and you can too. Make a notice of trespass for your business and print it for your entrance. Make it apparent to anyone coming in telling you how to live your life. They will be liable for any trespass, damage, fear, or control they attempt to force on you. This is a war for our divine spirit's expression of love. This is not some event that will disappear. 2 weeks to flatten the curve was the introductory lie to which we find ourselves shut down 1 year later. Any government telling you now there will be a gradual reopening can be rejected. Open up now! We should have never closed down with the knowledge of effective treatment available. You cannot take back that time, but you can take control over the jurisdiction which reigns over all, the now space jurisdiction. We must fight for every single breath we take in this world to regain control of our courts, businesses, children, lives, and any other facet of self-responsible security we can implement. I am not perfect, far from it, but I will call out this evil now. I will call out the lies now. I will pass on the message tomorrow, February 11th. There are businesses all around the country dedicated and willing to open up and take a stand against oppression and slavery. This speech is only a light. This speech is only a light to guide you in a direction, not an answer. There are too many questions to answer for one speech. The corruption is so massive, it cannot all be addressed right here and now. You must find these answers yourself. If you have faith, February 11th is the day to demonstrate your faith, to open up and reject the idea, open when we say so. An investment in opening up tomorrow is faith in the people who have been fighting to bring this light of these lies since the beginning. Not faith in the government, not faith in the mainstream media actors and anchors. Faith in the real people who are trying everything they can to build momentum of love for all men and women. Hugsovermasks.ca, getmad.online. For the business opening mission, go to weareallessential.ca to see the people I am speaking of. Open up! Mask off! Hugs and handshakes! Parties, dancing, friends, family, love and freedom! Cross the river! Take it back now! You will not be carried across the river! You must cross it yourself! If you have crossed it and see someone on the other side, light their way, but only that, and do not carry them. You cannot carry them. Reject the lies, live free, or die!